life, this world, our responsibility in it is so much bigger than us.
Right.
So what I have to keep in mind is usually when I want to go low, it's all about my own ego. You know, it's not about solving anything. It's not about fixing anything. It's about seeking revenge on the thing that happened to you.
Yeah.
And when you, as Oprah, you talk about purpose
Yes.
and what it's all about. And my purpose on this planet is not to just take care of my own little ego. You know, there is a bigger purpose for me out there. So when I respond to something, I have to think about that light I'm trying to shine. What role model am I trying to be? What are the words that I'm going to say, and how will it affect young people who are looking at me? That's the bigger picture that puts you in a position to think high. Because if you're thinking about the long term, you don't take the short term measure of getting even with somebody right here and now today, because it makes you feel good in the moment. If it's not going to fix a problem, if it's not going to move the needle, then you're not going high. You're just being selfish.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that because you know, when you are the rock star that you are, and yes, and when you're filling stadiums all over the world, you're a rock star. Just take it. Just take it. No! Yes. So when you are not just rock star, role model, world's most admired woman, when you are that, when you carry all of those titles, does that affect how you then make decisions? Is that now a part of what you think about before you make a decision or have an intention?
I don't know that it's any different today, but I feel like I have I believe that when you are a public figure, I believe this, that when you have any level of fame or if you have a platform, I believe, and I always have believed, that I have a responsibility with that platform. And I think about kids. I care a lot about young people. And I know that what we say, what they hear come out of our mouths, all of us, but me in particular, because they're paying attention, that it has a lasting effect. And I am a mother. I'm a mother. I care about kids first. So I think deeply about what kids are hearing me say. So yes, I do. I take that very seriously. And I take the words that I say to children very seriously. You know, when I'm with a young person, I want them to hear me. I want them to hear me see them. It's important for them to know that this person who's so famous and has this platform thinks that they are beautiful and smart and kind and good.
Yeah. And that has earlier, that everybody just wants to know that you hear me and that you see me. Yes. What's the best advice do you think you've given your daughters?
Gosh, I give them so much advice. They're so sick of me. You know, now that they're in college, I have these texting. Did I tell you to remember little things like you are eating some green things, aren't you?
But what is a thing that over the years was a running theme in your house that you said over and over? That
you know, I try to, you know, what I tell them is what I continue to tell themselves is that they have to walk their own walk. You know, they cannot define themselves by looking at each other or looking at me or their dad. They have to take the time to get to know themselves, give themselves a moment to figure out who they want to be in the world, not who they think I want them to be, not what the rest of the world says about them, but to really think about how they want to shape their lives and how they want to move in this world. So I don't want them measuring themselves by external influences, and for young girls, that is hard to do.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
That is a very hard thing to do, and everybody should understand that as a responsibility. It's Instagram
It was hard.
culture. It drives me crazy.
It was hard with just cable TV when you're watching all the images in music videos. It's, I don't know, exponentially difficult with social media when you're comparing yourself to everybody on social media.
So I constantly have to remind them that they have to live in their own skin. And that takes time too. And I try to make sure they understand that unfolding of understanding who you are, it is a journey of becoming. That you don't know that in your 20s. You don't know it all in your 20s.
No, you don't. You just start to know something, right? How did y'all do that in the White House where you have access to everything and everybody in the world. I think it's difficult for people, no matter where you are in your trajectory. You want to have a better life than your parents. You want your children to live comfortably, everybody does. But how do you not spoil children when they have access to everything?
It was easy for us, you know, because we don't think they deserve it. You know, it wasn't a difficult thing to do, you know. Not the way me and Barack were raised. I mean, first of all, you gotta have a mate that shares your values. So it starts way back to who you pick.
That's right.
You gotta have a good picker, because if you all don't come to parenting with the same kind of values and understanding that stuff isn't parenting, giving kids things is not parenting. It is a verb. It is an active, engaging thing, and that means you got to know who your kids are, and each one of them are different, right? So you can't just apply the same principles to the first one that you did to the second one, because they come here totally different. So we didn't just show up in the White House. You know, I'm Michelle from the South Side of Chicago. I grew up in a little bitty house. I got nice clothes and jewelry now, but my mother made my clothes, you know. I mean, we were raised with that's enough. You know, you be grateful for what you have. You don't look at the next thing. You be happy with what you have. And that's how we work in the White House. That didn't change because we moved to a different house. You know, the house didn't define us. It's the values that defined us. So for us,
so I heard, we read this, although, you know, we can't believe anything we read, but I know Malia's third year Harvard, and you all together as a family dropped Sasha off.
we dropped Malia off too.
Yes.
Yeah, we all did.
Okay, and I heard
With the motorcade.
with the motorcade.
Tried to hide it, but it was there.
Harvard, 20 cars.
Well, we had them do less cars.
Okay.
So it had to be.
How was the
undercover
drop-off?
motorcade. It's always good for any parent who's dropped off kids. There's the busy part of drop off, which is like, okay, all right, and I'm that person. While Barack is like trying to put together a lamp. I'm like, girl, you cannot keep all these clothes. You brought 100 shoes, and you live in a dorm. So you can pick 10. I mean, this is what I'm doing. It's like pick 10 shoes. You cannot bring all those shoes. And she was supposed to do that before we got there, which was winnow her clothes down. But see, she didn't understand what dorm life was. And I was like, girl, you got 3 inches of a closet, so you gotta figure this out. So if there's that busyness of trying to move in and unpack and fold clothes and clean out stuff.
Together.
And get it all together. And so when you're busy with the busy stuff, you're not thinking about the emotional stuff. So usually we then drop them off, get them in the dorm, then we take them out to lunch somewhere, and that's like our last lunch. And when the emotions come is when we are getting in our cars and getting on a plane and leaving our babies, and they're going somewhere where they will now live. That's when it hits you. It's like we all start choking up. It was just like, this is the time when I know you're leaving.
Yeah.
And so we all, try to hold it together. We tried to hold it together to get her in the car so she wouldn't start crying. And then me and Barack, we bawled like babies. Barack gets that ugly, loud cry. He did that at Malia's graduation. Like, we're sitting there, he had his sunglasses on, and speeches are happening, and we're all chatting, and we hear and we look down like, are you okay? He's like, look, he's gonna kill me for telling me. Don't tell him. Don't tell him.
So this year is the first time you all have been empty nesters. And what's that like?
And it's so
Isn't
good,
it interesting?
y'all.
Is it?
No, it is really good.
Because doesn't the actual energy of the house change?
Yeah.
And all that.
You guys get out of the gutter.
Get up.
All of y'all, 15,000 people. Shame on you. What I'm saying is that parenting takes up a lot of emotional space. And,
Yes.
my husband was busy being president, so I don't think he understood much time and
Don't we wish? Yes. Don't we wish? Yes.
energy. Just vote, y'all. That's all I'm saying. Just vote. But anyway, we digress. But you know, I put a lot of time and energy to parent these girls in the White House because we were trying to make their lives normal. You know, so that meant weekends were always pain, right? Because you had to worry about what party they were going to, whether there was alcohol, and who was doing what, and I had to know who the parents were. So you're trying to do that as First Lady. I mean, every weekend for me was hard, just following these little girls around. And they're gone, thank God. They are off living their lives. As my mother used to say, sometimes you just need to get out there and live your life and have your mistakes where I can't see them because I'm tired of watching you walk into a wall that I told you was there.
You don't follow them on social
Oh,
media?
no. Now we have a lot of people who do. You know, that was, no, I'm serious. We have my communications director, all the young people in our lives that I mentor, they all follow the girls. You know, they're bigger brothers and sisters who are grown. It's like they're watching, and they're the ones because it's better for them to be checked by somebody other than me. You know, I also had to learn how to parent with a balance of kids who have Secret Service, right? So what am I saying, right? You don't know what I'm talking about. Right? You know, when there's Secret Service, you know how that goes. It's like, no, you don't. But and neither did I. But you're trying to make sure that these men and women who are following them around, that the girls can trust. So I had to get my information about what they were doing or not doing just the same way everybody else, from other parents and other kids who will tell on each other. You know, that takes that takes some energy. And now all that energy I can now place back on me, and helping me, you know, spending time figuring out my next chapter. You know, how I want to spend the rest of my life, what I want to do, what I choose to do,
vision is, and beyond.
Exactly.
So, do you all actually now do you have more time for each other to spend? Yes. So,
and more emotional time.
Really?
More emotional energy. I mean, it's just me and them and Bo and Sonny at dinner. And they don't talk, the dogs. So we're looking at each other.
28, right?
It'll be 28 this
28
year.
years.
Yeah.
Your husband recently posted a message. Y'all see this message he posted on Michelle's birthday on social media, and we said that in every scene you are my star. And you have called him your soul affirming partner. Is it more so now, 28 years, as opposed to earlier years? Does it just keep getting better, or it's more seasoned?
It's all of that, you know. I mean, and this is what I try to tell young people. It's you know, marriage is hard, and raising a family together is a hard thing. It takes a toll. But if you're with the person, if you know why you were with them, you know, you understand that there was a friendship and a foundation there. That may feel like it goes away during some of those hard times, but it's something that we always come back to. And we're coming back to that point where we see each other again, you know, because some of the hardest times in our lives, we just escaped it. We survived it. We went through a tough time. We did some hard things together. And now we're out on the other end, and I can look at him and I still recognize my husband. He's still the man that I fell in love with. Who I love and I respect and I trust. He's been an amazing father through so much. He has shown up well in the world, and he has been who he promised he would be to me.
Wow.
And so that has been tested over 28 years, you know. So what I tell young couples is that you gotta hang in there. You know, you can't quit the minute it gets hard, because this thing of living life and building a life together is a naturally hard thing to do. So you can't quit when it's hard, because then you'll miss the good part. And I do joke, and some people hate when I say this, but if you live long enough to be married for 40 years, 50 years, which is what we're working towards, if you get to a point where eight of those years are bad, 10 of those years are bad, wouldn't you take those odds? But that's what marriage is. You can have chunks of hard, bad times. And if that's how you define your marriage, by just the hard times, then you'll miss the truth of what's really there.
So you were so open in becoming when you talked about it. It was like, oh, they went to therapy. And therapy really was an eye-opener for you and for him.
Well, we all need to reflect. And it's very hard to do it in a marriage with the person you're trying to work on. Sometimes you need an objective person to just hear you out. You may not be right. You may just want to get it out. And have him sitting there listening to you get it out. Sometimes that helps. It's like, I don't know.
What did it teach you about yourself?
I talked about this. It taught me that I am responsible for my own happiness, that I didn't marry Barack for him to make me happy. No one can make me happy. So my disappointments were about what I thought he should be doing for me, giving to me, when I hadn't really done the work to figure out what did I want and how do I go after what I want on my own. If I'm going to show up equal in this partnership, I have to be able to make myself happy. And so I had to stop focusing on what he wasn't doing and start thinking about how to carve out the life that I wanted for myself, with or without Barack. And the more I did that, the more I succeeded in defining myself for myself, the better I was in my partnership.
Exactly. And isn't that for you the cornerstone of your own wellness program, is defining your own happiness and working towards that?
Well, one of the things I said this earlier, what I tried to tell my girls is walk your walk. That's been my mantra. One thing I do every year, I started doing right after the White House, is taking a retreat. And I think some of my girlfriends who've gone on a retreat, we go to this place where you're essentially walking for 4 hours. It's hard, and my friends who don't know what it is are usually mad at me by the middle of it.
That's a place where you get up at 5 a.m.
Exactly. And one of the lessons of walking for that long, because it's rare that you have to walk, and these are hikes. This is up mountains and down streams and valleys, and all you have is a camelback with some water, and some hiker is telling you water, 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 and you're just like, shut up. Just shut up with that water. When is it over, this hike? But you're hiking with other people, and what you realize is that not everybody has their own way of hiking. Some people can get up the mountains fast, some people are fast on the flats, some people are slow and methodical about how they walk. And I always found that when I was not enjoying my walk is when I was comparing my walk to somebody else in the group. And I had to sort of start telling myself over these 4 hours, stop comparing yourself to the person walking ahead of you or behind you. Walk your walk. Do your walk. Why are you here? How fast do you need to go? How fast do you need to take that incline to get through it? Because if you do what she did in front of you, you won't make it. So for me, the message that I always have to tell myself is, what is my journey? What is my definition of health for me? Not what I see in a magazine, because the people in magazines don't look like us. They don't even set it up to look like us. They don't even look like that, right?
So I sometimes am at a photo shoot. Have you ever looked around the photo shoot? At last photo shoot, I counted 47 people.
Oh, yeah, those are.
Yeah.
This is also rich people's problems, talking about photo shoots, right? And in my photo shoot, girl, there were like 100 people.
Girl, my last photo shoot, yes. But I'm just saying, there are so many people to
make you look like this, right?
Yes.
Somebody put these bracelets on me, and then they moved one over there, and I was like, why'd you move that one? But who's got time to figure it out? They just push you out on stage. Just get out there. This is sort of my walk, but it's somebody else's walk too.
I was talking to Tina Fey recently, and she said that she's at a stage now where she appreciates that she has moved through life in a few different body shapes.
Yeah.
What do you appreciate most now about your body today?
It's mine, all mine, and it's a healthy body that works every day. And I try hard not to judge it. And it is different. I mean, you have to get to know your body, because what this body is at 56 isn't this. I can't do the same thing that I did when I was 36. It's not the same body. We're living things. We're not machines. You know, we run out of gas. We need fuel. We need sunshine and light. We have to take care of ourselves. And when you don't, as you get older, just like any living thing, it begins to fail on you. And for me, I'm trying to figure out what is that balance that I need to make sure that this body that God gave me, that I'm taking care of it the best that I can, and that it will serve me well as I get older. And that isn't doing that. What I did at 30 does not take care of this body at 56. So I can't look at some little kid in the gym next to me and even want to walk her walk, because she's 30, you know, and I'm 56 with a 56-year-old body, and I love my body. You know, and as a child growing up with a person, with a father with a disability who could not walk, my father would have given anything to have any one of my legs. For me to judge that and not to just embrace it and be happy that I'm alive, moving, able to move, I have to tell myself, appreciate what God gave you and take care of that. And be balanced about it.
I like that you so freely speak the number 56.
Yay, for me.
Yay! Because you have been around women, we all have, and men too, like, oh, I'm not going to say the number, oh my gosh, I'm turning 40, and oh my gosh, I'm turning 50. You never had any of that.
We are so ridiculous as women, you know. We are struggling with so much, you know, just the notion too. The other thing, we don't want to talk about our age, and then we want to act like we should look like we did when we're 20, you know. When, I'm sorry, men, y'all can look any kind of way, you know, and it seems to be okay. I told my daughters, because as they're getting older, they start to judge themselves. And you know, it's interesting when they talk about, well, I couldn't fit in my jeans that I had last year. And I said, but you're a whole nother year older. You're now becoming a woman. You don't have a child's body. That's like saying, you know, at 20, I'm really upset that I couldn't wear my favorite overalls anymore when I was 10.
Yeah.
You know, that's as ridiculous as it is at 56 to think that I should look like I did when I was 36, or for anyone to judge me like that, or to judge a woman like that. We're even.
Well, we're in this culture where people are trying to stop it.
Yes.
And then you have all of these frozen faces. Yes.
And let me tell you, when you're in a
nobody says
photo line, now this is another thing most people are, when you're in a photo line and everybody looks the same, and you're like, didn't I just meet you? Nope. Y'all just have the same lips. It's like,
And the same forehead.
stop it.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Spit you. I didn't.
But we have to embrace our change. And I'm lecturing to myself truthfully, ladies, because I struggle with this too. You know, I struggle with looking at the mirror going, well, and I hate looking at myself. I hate listening to my voice. I hate watching myself on tape, because I'm constantly judging myself too, just like everybody else.
Really, are you still, I was going to ask you, is there any self-doubt left?
Yes!
Because I honestly, Michelle,
Yes!
I remember because I opened or interviewed you at the very first tour stop in Chicago.
I remember
and
that,
we were a
yes.
little nervous. We prayed backstage because I was the first one. And I remember you were anxious. And I read somewhere where you said you weren't even sure people would show up.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, I lived in a cocoon of the White House for 8 years. I knew sort of kind of that people maybe sort of liked me, you know, might be interested in the book. I don't know. You know, the people who are, you guys, see, I wasn't fishing for a compliment. Not everybody likes me though. You know, some people think I'm the devil incarnate. You know, I mean, you know, when you're in politics, you get the good and the venom too. You know, and that's why in the book I remind people, look, people called me all kinds of things when I was campaigning for Barack. When it was a competition, they called me un-American, and this stuff sticks with you. Men talked about the size of my butt. You know, there are people who were telling me I was angry. You know, that stuff hurts. You know, and it makes you sort of wonder, what are people seeing? You know,
Yes.
so that stuff is there. And look, I'm a black woman in America. And, you know, we're not always made to feel beautiful. You know, so there's still that, you know, there's still that baggage that we carry. And not everybody can relate to that, but yes, there is baggage that I carry just like anybody else.
Well, I was wondering if touring the world, filling arenas and stadiums around the world, helped to release some of that self-doubt.
The release doesn't come from the adoration or the book sales. The work is still from within. That's the thing. You know, it's the voices in my head. It's not y'all. It's me. You know, it's me changing the playbook, the recording in my head that has been played over and over again. And that's what a lot of women, that's why I take what children hear from me. You know, I take that very seriously because my voice becomes the part that the recording in their head.
So what could that voice possibly be saying to you at this point that brings self-doubt?
It's always, are you working hard enough? Is there, you know, are you using this platform for a good purpose? Are you focused on what other people need? Are you getting outside of your own ego? That's, you know, we're constantly checking that with the work that we're doing. I mean, I just spent a year on a book tour talking about me, and it feels like that's enough. Now let's talk about somebody else's story. Now where are these girls who are not going to school? Because you know what, in the end, that's why I'm here. I'm not here to talk about my story or to talk about my journey. I'm here to shine a light on other young women.
And that's your big work ahead.
That's the big, I feel, that's the work that speaks to me.
You recently released a companion to Becoming. It's called the Journal. Lovely, for discovering your voice. I gave away many for Christmas.
Thank you.
And I've been keeping a journal, you know, since I'm about 15 years old. I love some of the questions you include in here. You say, if you could have a conversation with a loved one who has passed away, what would you ask him or her? I'm asking that of you.
You know, I wish I knew, like, I wish I had taken the time to get to know my grandparents' full stories, because a lot of what I talk about are my impressions of what my grandparents must have been going through. I talk about my paternal grandfather, Dandy, and he was kind of a crotchety old man I write about, and now that I'm older, I can look back and think, why was he so angry? But it was because he was a brilliant black man in the era of segregation and Jim Crow who could not realize his potential. And he was probably very bitter about that. And
Imagine how that would
imagine how that would feel. I wish I was old. I wish I had been old enough to sit down with him and ask him what he went through. How did he survive living through a world that had such limited expectations for him when he knew that, you know, there was so much more for him.
Yeah.
I would want to unpack that so that I could get to know him better. And the reason why I put this kind of stuff in the journal is because this is what our stories are. And I want particularly young people to know that there is time now to have some of those conversations with the elders in your life. Because the more you understand their stories, their journeys, their pains, and their hurts, you get to understand who they are in a full sense. And then you judge less, and you're more empathetic. I wish I understood my elders a bit more. But we grew up in an era where you don't ask nobody a question. You know, don't ask Dandy that.
Right.
You know, you're
But you wish if you could have a conversation, that's who it would be.
and
All
I would
right.
do that with every single one of